When doubt rises within you, it often comes disguised as a voice of reason, a cautious whisper telling you to be realistic, to lower your expectations, to stay where you are. But doubt is not wisdom. Doubt is the shadow that appears only because a great light is shining behind you. That light is your imagination, your inner certainty, your divine creative power. You never doubt what is outside you. You doubt only what is within, because the outer world has already taken form, but the inner world is still being shaped. So the first step in dealing with doubt is to understand what it truly is, a signal that you are standing on the threshold of a new creation. There is nothing wrong with feeling doubt. It is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that something greater is being born. When a new state of consciousness begins to emerge, the old state resists. Doubt is the echo of the old self trying to persuade you to return to familiar territory. But you are not obligated to listen. Every transformation demands a decision, a moment where you choose which voice holds authority in your life, the voice of the world or the voice of your inner knowing. To deal with doubt, you must stop arguing with it. Doubt grows stronger the more attention you give it. You cannot convince doubt to leave. You can only withdraw your emotional investment from it. You do this by returning again and again to the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Not the thought, not the hope, but the feeling. Thought may wander, but feeling anchors. When you occupy the feeling of the state you desire, doubt loses its foundation, because it cannot exist where conviction is experienced as real. Many people try to overcome doubt by forcing confidence, but that effort only reveals that they do not yet possess the feeling. Instead, gently shift yourself into the inner experience of having what you want. Feel the relief, the gratitude, the quiet sense of off course. You need not make loud declarations or wrestle with your mind. Creation is not a struggle, it is an acceptance. You accept the new state as yours, and as you dwell in that acceptance, doubt finds no place to land. Doubt often appears because you are looking outward for confirmation. You check the world to see if your desire is coming, and when the world has not yet changed, you question yourself. But the outer world is always the last to move. It is the mirror, not the source. No one looks into a mirror expecting the reflection to change before they change themselves. Yet many do exactly this with life. They want the world to shift first so they can feel assured. But the world can only reflect the inner arrangement. So deal with doubt by refusing to make the outer world your measurement. Instead, make your inner conviction the standard. When doubt tells you it is impossible, answer with feeling, not words. Feel the possibility becoming fact. When doubt tells you you're not capable, inhabit the version of yourself who already did it. When doubt says the circumstances are too difficult, embody the reality in which those circumstances already rearranged themselves in your favor. You must train yourself to respond to doubt not with fear, but with embodiment. Another way to deal with doubt is to understand that imagination creates in secrecy. All great transformations happen in silence before they appear in form. Just as a seed grows beneath the soil where no eye can see, your desire is taking root in the unseen. If you keep digging it up to check whether it is growing, you slow its progress. Doubt is often that impulse to dig, an impatience, a fear that the unseen work is not happening. But creation is happening even when you feel nothing, even when you see nothing. Trust the unseen as you trust the seed in the ground. You do not need proof, you need persistence in feeling. When you feel doubt rising, pause. Don't fight it, don't fear it, don't obey it. Simply breathe and return to the inner act. Suppose the best. Feel the desire as already realized. Let your senses absorb that reality. Let the inner picture become so alive that the outer world feels like a shadow by comparison. When your inner world becomes more vivid than your doubt dissolves, for it cannot coexist with a stronger feeling. The key is consistency, not force. Repetition is the secret. Each time you return to the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you weaken the old state and strengthen the new one. Eventually, the new state becomes natural. And when a state feels natural, no doubt can survive, because doubt only attacks what feels unfamiliar. Once the desired state becomes your new normal, the outer world must reorganize to match it. Do not be harsh with yourself when doubt comes. Do not judge yourself as failing or weak. You are not failing, you are transitioning. You are shifting identity, and every shift brings a moment of uncertainty. But you can master this moment by remembering that you are not the doubt. You are the awareness observing it. And the moment you observe it, you are free to choose a different focus. Deal with doubt by remembering that every desire is already complete in the unseen. Your work is not to make it happen. Your work is to align with the version of yourself for whom it has already happened. That version exists now. Step into it, feel its reality, live from it. Let doubt be the fading echo of the old life you are leaving behind as you move boldly into the new. Doubt may appear as logic, as caution, as a plea for you to stay within the boundaries of what you have known. But once you understand its true nature, you begin to see it differently. You begin to see that doubt is nothing more than the residue of your old assumptions. It is the mind trying to protect the familiar, even when the familiar is the very thing you are trying to transcend. So when doubt arises, recognize it as a sign that your internal landscape is shifting. Something in you is stretching beyond what it once accepted as true. If you feel doubt, it means you are touching the edges of a greater reality. It means your imagination has already moved, and your outer world has not yet caught up. That gap between the inner and outer is where doubt tries to survive. But you do not have to fill that gap with fear. Fill it instead with feeling. Feeling is the bridge. Feeling closes the distance between what is imagined and what is experienced. When you choose the feeling of fulfillment, even for a moment, you collapse the space that doubt occupies. Many people make the mistake of trying to reason their way out of doubt. They argue with their minds, they debate possibilities, they list reasons for and against the outcome they desire. But creation does not respond to argument, it responds to assumption. It responds to what you accept as true. When you assume the end with full feeling, the mind eventually follows. It begins to adjust itself to the new inner reality. Doubt fades because it cannot survive in a state of acceptance. At times, doubt is simply the echo of past disappointments. You remember the times you tried before and failed. You remember the times you hoped and nothing changed. You remember the moments where evidence seemed to stack itself against you. But those memories belong to a version of you that no longer exists. The self who failed, the self who was disappointed, the self who lived in limitation. Those identities dissolve the moment you occupy a new assumption. You are not bound by your past. Your past has no authority unless you give it authority through memory and emotion. When doubt arises from old wounds, gently remind yourself that you are not recreating the past. You are creating the future. You are not repeating what was, you are selecting what shall be. The imagination does not draw from what has been experienced, it draws from possibilities. It draws from infinite potential. Your past proves nothing about what is possible for you now. So when past-based doubt whispers, "It didn't happen before," respond with the silent knowing, "I am not who I was before." Doubt also comes when you imagine too infrequently. A desire entertained once and left alone will feel distant, fragile, uncertain. But a desire revisited, nourished, and emotionally inhabited becomes solid and real. You must return to it until it becomes familiar. Familiarity is what eases doubt. We never doubt what feels natural. You do not doubt your ability to breathe. You do not doubt that the sun will rise. You do not doubt that your name belongs to you. Why? Because these states feel natural. Once the feeling of your wish fulfilled becomes just as natural, doubt will no longer find a home in you. Do this gently. Do it joyfully. There is no need for strain. You are not trying to convince yourself of something. You are simply remembering the truth that already exists in the unseen realm. You are aligning yourself with the reality that has been waiting for your acceptance. You are stepping into the version of yourself who already lives the life you desire. That shift is not forced, it is assumed. To weaken doubt, practice detachment from appearances. Appearances are deceptive. They are not facts, they are reflections. The world shows you only the residue of your old assumptions. What you see today is the result of what you thought and felt yesterday. So do not judge the world when it has not yet changed. Do not let the temporary appearance convince you that nothing is happening. Something is always happening. Creation is always unfolding beneath the surface. Your assumption is working even when nothing seems to move. The difficulty arises only when you insist on visible proof too soon. But the seed does not sprout the moment you plant it. It must grow in darkness first. It must take shape where no eye can witness it. Your desires operate the same way. If you can trust the unseen, doubt loses its power. Doubt requires evidence to survive, but faith requires only feeling. When feeling becomes your evidence, you are no longer at the mercy of appearances. If you find yourself overwhelmed by doubt, take a moment to still your mind. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly and deeply. Release the tension in your body. Then gently enter the scene that represents your fulfilled desire. Don't force it to be clear. Don't push yourself to visualize perfectly. Simply enter the feeling of that scene. Feel the atmosphere. Feel the emotions that accompany its fulfillment. Let yourself drift into the state as though it were already real. This simple act shifts you from doubt to alignment. You may need to do this many times. especially in the beginning. But with repetition, the feeling becomes natural. And when it becomes natural, the outer world begins to respond. You will notice small signs, little movements, subtle rearrangements in your environment. These are not coincidences, they are confirmations. They are reflections of your inner shift. And as you pay attention to these signs, your confidence grows, your doubt diminishes. You begin to trust that the inner world truly governs the outer. Another powerful way to deal with doubt is to stop identifying with the thinking mind. You are not your thoughts. You are the consciousness that observes them. When doubt-filled thoughts appear, you do not need to engage with them. You do not need to resist them. You simply observe them as you would observe clouds passing across the sky. Thoughts come and go. They only have power when you cling to them. If you let them float by without emotional reaction, they dissolve on their own. Remember that your true creative power lies not in your thoughts, but in your feelings. The feeling state you occupy is what manifests. Thoughts may contradict your desire, but if your dominant feeling supports it, your desire will manifest. You can feel successful even if your mind speaks of failure. You can feel loved even if your mind remembers rejection. You can feel wealthy even if your mind worries about bills. Feeling is the creative axis. Feeling overrides the noise of the mind. So the next time doubt appears, do not try to silence it. Do not try to argue with it. Simply shift your feeling. Choose the emotional tone of fulfillment. Choose the inward certainty that your desire already belongs to you. As you do this, the doubtful thoughts fade into the background, losing their significance. You may also find it helpful to reframe doubt as a sign of progress. Doubt often peaks right before a breakthrough. The old self senses that its time is ending, so it tries to reassert itself one last time. When this happens, instead of collapsing into fear, remind yourself that this is simply a sign that the new state is almost fully formed. You are close. You are on the verge of manifestation. Treat doubt like a final test that requires only one answer: persistence. Persist in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Persist even when nothing changes. Persist even when everything seems to contradict your assumption. Persistence is what solidifies the new state. Nothing can stop a person who persists in feeling. You are not required to know how or when your desire will manifest. You are only required to remain faithful to the feeling of its fulfillment. Faith is not an emotion. It is an inner stance. It is a quiet confidence, a knowing without evidence. It is the willingness to trust the invisible more than the visible. When you live from the end, faith becomes your natural state. You no longer question whether things will work out, you simply know they already have. Doubt fades when you stop giving it energy. And you stop giving it energy when you immerse yourself completely in the inner reality of your desire. Let the outer world do what it will. Let others say what they want. You do not create through their words or their opinions. You create through your inner assumption. You create through the reality you occupy within yourself. You must understand that your imagination is not fantasy. It is the true reality. What you imagine with feeling becomes the world you eventually walk through. When you take this truth seriously, doubt becomes nothing more than a momentary distraction. You will no longer treat it as a barrier. You will treat it as a reminder to return to the end. Every great change begins with a small shift of awareness. The moment you choose to feel the end, that the old patterns begin to dissolve. The moment you choose to inhabit the fulfilled state, your inner world reorganizes. And once the inner world changes, the outer must follow. So if doubt appears, smile inwardly. Recognize it. Understand it, but do not identify with it. You are infinitely more powerful than a passing thought. You are the creator, the imaginer, the consciousness that shapes reality itself. You deal with doubt not by resisting it, but by rising above it. You rise above it by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled until that feeling becomes the only truth you know. And as you persist in that state, the world will bow to your inner conviction, reshaping itself to match the reality you have already accepted as yours. Doubt tries to convince you that you are asking for too much, that your desire is unrealistic, that the world cannot bend in the way you imagine. But the world does not bend because it has the power, it bends because you do. The moment you shift inwardly, the moment you adopt a new assumption, the entire structure of your reality begins to move. But doubt does not want you to stay long enough in that assumption to witness the change. It wants you to abandon the state before it can crystallize. That is why doubt feels urgent. It tries to pull you out of the end. To deal with this urgency, you must cultivate calmness. Calmness is a superpower. Calmness is the atmosphere of certainty. When you are calm, doubt loses its heat. It loses its sense of importance. It becomes just another thought in the background. You can train yourself into this calmness by returning frequently to the feeling of already being the person you want to be. A calm creator is a powerful creator because calmness is the evidence of inner faith. When you encounter doubt, instead of panicking, ask yourself a simple question. What would I feel if I already had what I desire? Then step into that feeling. Just step into it for a moment. You don't need to hold it for hours. A few seconds of true feeling is more powerful than an hour of frantic affirmations. And if the feeling slips away, do not worry. Gently return to it. The gentleness is important. Force creates resistance, but gentleness creates access. You are not forcing a new state, you are allowing it. There are times when doubt will appear very loudly, especially when your external world seems to contradict your inner assumption. You may face delays, setbacks, unexpected events, or silence. These are the moments when doubt will try to convince you that your imagination has no power. But these moments are illusions. They are the last movements of the old reality dissolving. When the old structure begins to break, it often makes noise. But this is not a sign that you are off track. It is a sign that the old is clearing out. If something appears to go wrong, remind yourself that it is still part of the unfolding. Sometimes the path to the fulfillment of your desire is hidden. Sometimes life rearranges pieces in ways you cannot yet understand. But everything is moving according to the end you have assumed. If you persist in the feeling, the pieces will align. What once looked like a setback will reveal itself to be a stepping stone. What once felt like a delay will reveal itself as perfect timing. But you can only see this when you remain faithful to the end. One of the most transformative ways to deal with doubt is to stop demanding immediacy. When you demand immediate results, you create pressure. Pressure creates tension. Tension disconnects you from the feeling of fulfillment. Instead, allow yourself to relax into the knowing that your desire is unfolding in the perfect way. You do not need to know the road, you only need to know the destination. The moment you assume the destination has already reached, the road begins to arrange itself. If doubt tells you that nothing is happening, remember that the unseen world is more real than the seen world. The unseen is the cause, the seen is the effect. The inner world is the seed, the outer world is the harvest. When you plant a seed, you do not stand over it shouting, "Grow now." You water it, you believe in it, and you wait. You do not panic because nothing appears on the first day. You trust the process. You trust that life knows what to do. In the same way, trust your assumptions. Trust that your inner reality is already working on your behalf. To overcome doubt, live from the desire, not toward it. When you live toward it, you feel distance, you feel lack, you feel separation. And separation is the birthplace of doubt. But when you live from it, you embody it. You internalize it. You experience it within, and the world responds accordingly. Living from the end is the ultimate remedy to doubt because when you live from the end, doubt has no place to cling. You are already in the state of fulfillment. Living from the end means asking yourself, if this were already true, how would I think? How would I act? How would I feel? How would I move through my day? Then live in alignment with those answers, not through effort, but through identity. When you shift identity, your actions naturally follow. You no longer try to be the version of yourself who has the desire. You simply are. And that simple shift dissolves doubt at its roots. Another powerful method is gratitude, not gratitude as a technique, but gratitude as a state. Gratitude implies fulfillment. You do not feel gratitude for something you lack, you feel it for something you have. So when you enter a state of deep gratitude for your desire, even before it appears, you place yourself in the vibration of completion. Gratitude is the emotional proof that the desire already belongs to you, and doubt cannot survive in the presence of true gratitude. If doubt comes in waves, strong one day, weaker the next, do not judge yourself. The human mind moves in cycles. What matters is not whether doubt appears, but what you do when it does. Treat doubt as a visitor, not a master. Notice it, breathe, and return to your assumption. You do not need to eliminate doubt, you only need to stop obeying it. The deeper your faith in your inner vision, the quicker doubt will vanish on its own. You may find that doubt appears most intensely right after you imagine your desire. This is because imagination stirs the subconscious, and the subconscious begins rearranging the inner structure of your beliefs. Doubt rises as a sign of that rearrangement. Instead of fearing this, welcome it. Say to yourself, this is happening because something new is forming within me. This mindset transforms doubt from a threat into a sign of progress. You must also be mindful of the conversations you entertain, both internally and externally. Every conversation is a seed. When you speak words of fear, you plant fear. When you speak words of doubt, you plant doubt. But when you speak from the end, calmly, confidently, your world reflects that confidence back to you. Avoid conversations that strengthen the old state. Protect your inner world the way you would protect a fragile seedling. Give it warmth, quiet, and care until it becomes strong enough to withstand anything. Be selective with who you share your desires with. Not everyone understands the power of the unseen. Some people speak from their own fears and limitations, and if you allow their words into your heart, they can amplify your doubt. Share your inner visions only with those who uplift you, or keep them sacred within yourself until they manifest. Silence is sometimes the greatest protection of faith. When dealing with doubt, remember that your imagination is sovereign. Nothing can interfere with it unless you allow it. When you imagine the end with feeling, you are creating a blueprint that the outer world must eventually reflect. This blueprint is indestructible unless you abandon it. So the real work is not creating the blueprint, it is staying loyal to it. Once you are loyal to the inner state, the outer world must comply. You can also anchor yourself by reminding yourself of moments in your life where you once doubted something would happen, yet it did. Look back at the times you overcame, achieved, received, or manifested something you once thought impossible. Those moments are evidence of your power. They are reminders that the world is far more flexible than you've been taught. Let those memories dissolve the illusion that doubt is truth. Doubt is not truth. Doubt is only a thought without substance. It becomes truth only when you emotionally accept it. But you are never required to accept it. You can let it pass. You can return to your inner state. You can remain steadfast in your assumption. In dealing with doubt, reflect on this. Everything you now consider normal was once something you doubted or couldn't imagine. Yet here you are, living in what once seemed impossible. This alone should show you that doubt has no real authority. It only has the power you give it. As you continue to occupy the state of the wish fulfilled, the amount of doubt you feel will decrease. You will find that your inner world becomes more stable, more peaceful. You will begin to trust your imagination more than your senses. And when this happens, you become unstoppable. Nothing in the outer world can sway you because your inner conviction becomes unshakable. There will come a moment where you will feel a deep inner stillness, a sense of "'tis done," even if nothing in your world has changed yet. That stillness is the death of doubt. That stillness is the sign that manifestation is near. When you reach that state, you no longer question, no longer hope, no longer wonder. You simply know. And when you know, the world must respond. The world cannot resist a mind that knows. The world cannot deny a heart that is already living from the end. The world cannot oppose a state that has become natural within you. You deal with doubt by rising into the state where doubt cannot enter. And you rise into that state by feeling the end as real, repeatedly, lovingly, consistently, until the inner truth becomes stronger than the outer illusion. Then doubt dissolves, manifestation comes, and you step into the life you imagined, knowing you created it from within. Doubt tries to creep in during the quiet moments, the moments when nothing seems to be happening, when the outer world appears stubborn and unchanging. It whispers, "What if you're wrong? What if this doesn't work? What if you're imagining something that will never come?" But the truth is that these quiet moments are the most sacred moments of creation. This is when the unseen work is being done. This is when the roots of your desire are taking hold beneath the surface. The world is silent not because nothing is happening, but because everything is happening in a dimension you cannot yet see. Doubt misinterprets silence as stagnation, but silence is often the loudest sign that manifestation is underway. The outer world is slow. The inner world is immediate. When you assume a state, the shift happens instantly within you, but physical reality takes time to catch up. This gap between inner immediacy and outer unfolding is where doubt tries to live. But you must remember that the gap is not a void. It is a process. The gap is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of gestation. Just as a child grows unseen in the womb before it is revealed, your desire grows unseen in consciousness before it manifests. Patience with the unseen is one of the greatest antidotes to doubt. To deal with doubt, remind yourself frequently that imagination is the true cause of all things. What you imagine with feeling must express itself. This is law. Doubt does not break this law. It only delays your acceptance of it. When you return again and again to the end, you smooth out the ripples of doubt. You establish a new inner pattern. Eventually, that pattern becomes so stable that doubt cannot disturb it. There are moments when doubt shows up as fatigue. You may feel tired of imagining, tired of waiting, tired of believing in something you cannot yet touch. But this fatigue does not mean you have failed. It means you are transitioning between two states. When the old state is collapsing and the new state is not yet fully embodied, you may feel temporarily suspended, no longer your old self, not yet your new self. Doubt tries to interpret this in-between stage as hopelessness. But in truth, it is one of the most powerful stages of manifestation. It is the moment before the shift becomes permanent. In these moments of fatigue, rest, not from your desire, but in your desire. Rest in the feeling of fulfillment. Rest in the knowing that the inner work is done. Rest in the identity of the one who already has what they desire. There is no effort in being that person. You simply allow yourself to feel their state. When you rest in the state, you recharge your inner conviction. Doubt also appears when you rely too heavily on the senses. The senses are not reliable indicators of truth. They are limited. They can only show you what has already been created. When your senses tell you something is impossible, remember that they are only reporting the past, not predicting the future. Do not let your senses dictate your assumptions. Your senses must bow to your imagination, not the other way around. When you truly understand this, doubt weakens. To deal with doubt, practice shifting your attention. Doubt thrives when you focus on what is missing. It grows when you focus on what has not changed. Instead, direct your attention to the feeling of fulfillment. Attention is a form of energy. Wherever you place it, you give life. If you place your attention on lack, you energize lack. If you place your attention on fulfillment, you energize fulfillment. This is why the feeling of the wish fulfilled is so essential. It keeps your attention aligned with the end. If you find doubt trying to dominate your mind, do not resist it. Resistance only strengthens it. Simply withdraw your attention from it. Acknowledge its presence without feeding it. Then turn your attention gently toward your desire. This is not suppression, it is selection. You are selecting the thoughts that align with the state you choose to occupy. You do not need to eliminate doubt to manifest. You only need to starve it by refusing to dwell on it. One of the most powerful ways to dissolve doubt is to make your desire ordinary. When something feels extraordinary, it feels distant. It feels rare. It feels reserved for someone else. Doubt loves extraordinary desires because it can convince you that you are reaching too high. But when you make your desire feel ordinary, natural, simple, effortless, you remove the emotional resistance. You make it feel familiar. And whatever feels familiar feels possible. Whatever feels possible moves toward you effortlessly. To make a desire ordinary, bring it into your daily inner world. Imagine it not as a grand event, but as a normal part of your life. See yourself waking up in it, speaking from it, acting through it. Let it become part of your identity. When your desire becomes ordinary in your imagination, it becomes inevitable in your reality. Another important way to deal with doubt is to detach from timelines. Timelines breed pressure. Pressure breeds fear. Fear breeds doubt. When you release the demand for your desire to arrive in a specific way at a specific time, you open yourself to infinite possibilities. You allow life to orchestrate things in ways far better than you could conceive. Detachment does not mean indifference. It means trust. It means knowing with such inner certainty that you no longer need to ask when or how. You simply rest in the assurance that it is done. If doubt appears because others around you do not believe, do not take their disbelief as truth. They are observing from their state of consciousness, not yours. They are reflecting their own limitations, not the limits of reality. You are not obligated to adopt their assumptions. Your inner world is private, powerful, and sovereign. No one else has access to it unless you grant them access. Guard it wisely. Doubt often enters through the words of others. Protect your mind from those who speak from fear or lack. Speak within yourself from the end, and let that be the only voice that matters. As you continue to practice living from the end, you will begin to notice that doubt loses its intensity. It becomes quieter, weaker, less convincing. You will start to feel a stronger pull toward the fulfillment of your desire than toward the fear of losing it. This is a sign that the new state is taking root. You will feel more stable, more confident, more aligned. You will begin to think less about whether it will happen and more about what it feels like that it already has. Eventually, a day will come when doubt may arise, but it will not be able to shake you. It will appear like a distant memory, a faint echo of an old self you no longer inhabit. You will recognize it, but it will have no emotional charge. This is when you know you have truly shifted. This is when the outer manifestation is close, because the inner manifestation has become permanent. To deal with doubt, remind yourself that your desire was not given to you by accident. You did not imagine it randomly. You did not create it from nothing. The desire itself is a sign that the fulfillment already exists. You feel it because it is possible. You desire it because it belongs to you. Doubt cannot erase what is meant for you. It can only distract you from accepting it. But once you accept it inwardly, it must express outwardly. You may even come to see doubt as a teacher. It teaches you where your faith needs strengthening. It teaches you where your assumptions need reinforcing. It teaches you where you are still holding on to old beliefs. Use doubt as a signal. Whenever it appears, let it guide you back to the state of the wish fulfilled. Let it remind you to return to the end. Let it push you deeper into your inner certainty. There will be moments when the inner feeling becomes so strong that even the faintest doubt cannot penetrate it. In these moments, you will feel a sense of calm power, a stillness beyond thought, a certainty beyond reason. You will know that nothing can stop the unfolding of your desire. And when you reach this state, manifestation becomes effortless. The world moves, people shift, circumstances rearrange themselves, and everything aligns to deliver what you have already accepted within. This is how you deal with doubt. Not by fighting it, not by fearing it, but by rising above it, by remaining loyal to the inner reality, by choosing feeling over appearances, by trusting the unseen over the temporary. And as you persist, the world will reveal what you have known all along, that your imagination is the true source of all creation, and doubt is nothing more than a shadow that cannot survive the light of your inner conviction. And so, when doubt rises again, and it will, do not meet it as an enemy you must defeat, but as a shadow that cannot remain when you stand in your own inner light. Doubt has no substance except the power you give it. It cannot touch you unless you reach out and take its hand. Leave it unanswered. Leave it unrecognized. Turn wholly toward the state you desire, the feeling you choose, the truth you have claimed, and let that be your only reality. The world may try to shake you, your senses may try to tempt you into believing something contrary, but you have discovered the deeper law of life. Everything yields to imagination. Everything bends to the direction of your inner seeing. Everything rearranges for the one who refuses to betray their own inner conviction. So hold that conviction close. Live inside it more fully than you live inside the world around you. Breathe in its certainty. Walk in its fulfillment. Let your actions, your words, your thoughts, your reactions all arise from the state you have already accepted as yours. Doubt loses all strength when you stop feeding it with attention. Faith gains all strength when you return again and again to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. This is the secret. This is the work. This is the path of the one who creates from within. And when you stand firm in what you have chosen to believe, the world has no choice but to mirror it. Your life becomes a testimony, not to luck or chance or fate, but to the power of one individual who dared to hold their inner vision above every outer circumstance. Let the world say what it will. Let appearances shift and sway. You remain unmoved, anchored in the truth that your imagination is shaping everything in its own divine timing. And when the manifestation appears as it must, you will understand that doubt was never a force to fight, only a voice to ignore. You will see that the moment you trusted the invisible more than the visible, the unseen more than the seen, you stepped into your true creative power. So choose now whom you will serve, your doubt or your desire. Choose now where you will stand, on the shifting ground of appearances, or on the solid foundation of inner knowing. Choose now what you will honor, the fear that whispers or the vision that calls you forward, and then live inside that choice with unwavering loyalty. Because the moment you do, the moment you claim the end as real, all doubt dissolves, all resistance falls away, and the life you once prayed for begins to rise toward you as surely as dawn breaks through the night. This is your power. This is your inheritance. This is the truth that will transform everything. Remain faithful to the state you have chosen, and the world will rearrange itself to match it.